Hello, welcome to a Spiritual Ascension, my 5-year journey where I'm telling my entire journey um, that happened over 5 years from April of 2020 to April of 2025. If you're just coming into this video for the first time, please go to the playlist and start at the intro video and go from there. Because I'm kind of telling this in chronological order. Okay. So when I left off, I had just left the parking garage and that crazy experience. um, the thing about this whole journey is to learn also about learning to trust the divine. You're one of the ones that have chosen this path, right? And as I've also said in many videos, that you are alone in doing this. So it's only you and spirit on this journey. So you have to learn to trust spirit with everything. Okay. When I walked out of that apartment that day, on April 30th, that Sunday, I walked out not knowing where I was going, what was going to happen to me, but I was putting full trust in the universe to take me to where I needed to go. I knew eventually, as they had told me, that I was going to end up at the New Hampshire Maine border, but that's all I knew. That was my destination. Okay. And I was in New Jersey at this point, so I had a long way to go. Um, so I left at the garage. And hopefully you've listened to the last video and you'll know why I had to leave. Um, and it was still really raining hard, like cats and dogs, and the rain was kind of at an angle and everything. Um, I went down the street to the train station because I knew there was like those kind of waiting rooms, overhead things, and I figured I could get under one of those, or usually they lock the main waiting room at night, but they had other overhead things. And that was the only place I knew to go. This is my first time ever being outside all night. I had never experienced anything like this. So I headed for the train station, and it's now around maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock. I don't know, somewhere around there. Um, I got to the train station. So this is now, mm, oh yeah, it's still April 30th, Sunday night into now Monday morning. So it's early Monday morning. Um, when I got there, the little room that they have that's kind of open, but it's like, within four sides with doorways, like glass enclosure, had actually heating things in that would come on every so often if you had to wait for a train late at night. But when I got there, it was probably about 10, 12 other homeless people already in there, kind of with their sleeping bags and blankets and already taken up the benches and even on the floor and everything. And I'm like, well, maybe I can still kind of inch my way in there. But then I was a little scared because a lot of times you find that they could be very territorial, and like this might be my space and I didn't know what else I should do. So I went down the uh, platform a little bit, and there was a bench and there was kind of an overhead lamp there. And it only came on like if you moved. And I was so extremely tired at this point because now it had been since 4 o'clock that afternoon that I had been fighting through this rain and cold, and I just wanted to sleep. Um, so I sat down and the overhead lamp came on and I was able to get some heat from that because it probably was about 50 degrees, I'm going to say, out. Um, but it was enough that I got to this point. Now, this is important. If you know anything about indigenous custom ceremonies or anything like that, there is a ceremony of the shaking. Okay. And I found myself getting to this point of the cold was so extreme. Like it wasn't cold because now it's about 50 degrees, but there was something internally happening to me that made me shake. And if you kind of look up that information, it's all about having this spiritual experience. Okay. And a lot of indigenous, you say healers or whatever, will have ceremonies where go out at night or have a set up a tent or something like that just for the sake of shaking. It's kind of like a healing practice. It's also a very spiritual practice, and you kind of know that spirit is around you at that time. The shaking was so extreme within me. And I say it's not even outside, it's internal. That I knew something was different. It felt so different. Like I've been cold before, but this felt different. Um, the lamp would come on for maybe 10 minutes and then it would go off. And I kind of was able to just sit there and like doze a little bit, but then the lamp would go off and I would get so cold again that I would have to kind of get up and just move around for the lamp to come back on. So no good sleep. I had looked at I knew like Dunkin' Donuts would open up early, and there was one probably about a mile and a half away. The one that was near, like right by me, didn't open until I think 7 o'clock or six. I think it was 6 o'clock. But this other one was open at 5 o'clock. Um, so I said, what I'll do is I'll leave here around 4:30 and then walk, and that will keep me warm. And by walking, and by the time I get there, it'll be 5 o'clock. And I had just enough money, I think, to get like a donut or something like that. I didn't want to drink anything because I didn't know when I was going to be able to go to the bathroom next. Um, And I hadn't gone to the bathroom at that point since I had left the house around 4 o'clock that afternoon. I hadn't drank anything all of that day because I was so afraid of not knowing when I was going to be able to use a restroom. So, um, around, so I sat there probably now it was 2 to 3 hours of sitting there just shaking, just like, and again, it was like an internal shaking. Um, at 4:30, I got up and I needed to use the bathroom like so bad. Um, oh man, desperate times come for desperate measures. That's all I'm going to say on that. Anyway, I hiked it down to that Dunkin' Donuts that was further away, and it was still raining really hard, and I was just soaked at this time. Actually, that I a thought comes back to mind that my clothes that I had in a bag were just soaked at that point. And I was just kind of tired of carrying that stuff around. And I didn't even care. I was so fed up at my circumstances and at going through this and everything. And I went and I left my bag of clothes near like a garbage. And I don't even know if it was in the garbage can, like near on a bench or something like that, because they were soaked through. So there was nothing I could do with them anyway at that point. Um, and I figured maybe one of the homeless people around there might find a bag and be able to use something eventually out of it. Like I was at the point I didn't even care. So I hiked it down to the Dunkin' Donuts and I get there and it's the drive-through that opens at 5. It's not the main inside restaurant. And that didn't open till 6. And I was like, oh my goodness. I walked all the way down here. I was already tired, exhausted. My feet had hurt. So I said, there's no sense in me waiting here because it looks kind of suspicious, me just hanging out here. So I ended up walking all the way back into town. And as I'm walking up this one roadway, it's near a school, and I see some steps. And I was just so tired. And I didn't have a cover on my phone for some reason at that point. And I go to sit down on the steps, and my phone falls out of my hand and it just cracks. It was still working, but the whole front of it was just cracked at this point. And I'm like, of all things, like I had just got the phone that past August. So now this is May, and I'm pretty good with never like dropping my phone. And now it fell onto the concrete stairs and the face of it just like cracked. So I was like, what else could go wrong at this point, between what had happened in the parking garage and me walking all the way down and not even being open. And I had still, by that time, like another half an hour until that Dunkin' Donuts opened. Um, as I walked down, I discovered that the grocery store was open and like it had opened up a little earlier. So I was able to go in there and go to the restroom and kind of just wash up a little bit. And then I went to the Dunkin' Donuts and was able to get just like a donut. That was it. I had like a bag of change and things and maybe like $2. So remember too that my money spirit kind of, if you've been following, I get these little gnats in here. If you've been following along, I went from like spirit having me leave my job. Like there's a reason for everything that happens to you. Leaving my job, um, to spirit only giving me so many readings. So I had just enough money to kind of pay like my phone bill and buy some food, but not enough to pay the next rent because it was time for me to move on. So I sat there. So now it's about 6 o'clock when that one opened. Got my donut, and I hadn't had anything to eat since the day before, probably around 2 o'clock or so. And it always comes and bothers me. It's the same one I can't get, the little net. It always comes and bothers me when I'm doing a video. Um, anyway, maybe that's spirit talking to me. Um, so where was I? I'm in Dunkin' Donuts, and I was able to, plug in my laptop there, charge my phone. And I knew the mall opened at 10 o'clock. And I said, at least I can go there and like spend the day there, um, and be inside, charge my phone and stuff. And the thing was, it was back where that first Dunkin' Donuts was. So I would have to walk all the way back, like another mile and a half again. Um, so I sat in Dunkin' Donuts from like 6 to 10, and I'll just checking time. Um, from 6 to 10, and then went walked to the mall, which ended up being good because I sat in the probably shouldn't have sat in the food court because I smell all that food, but I couldn't eat anything. I only had that one donut in the morning. And then around 5 o'clock, I'm trying to say, okay, it's getting kind of late. I don't know what to do at this point, where I'm going to go. Um, I had been going to the hospital for my physical therapy for my feet. And I remembered like you can go and sit in the waiting room there. And I thought about the waiting room and I said, well, that must be open like 24/7 because visitors and other people bringing in people, bringing in people or, family members or whatever. So that thought came into my mind. So now it's about 5:30 that I had been kind of just sitting in the mall. Um, and I already got rid of all my clothes. I just now kind of had that bag of my journal. I don't know if I had some other things, another bag of things. And then I had my backpack. And I remember walking in one department store and, they were kind of, I was hoping that I didn't look out of the ordinary. I was trying to blend in. But it was that first feeling of, like when you first see like a homeless person, and I'm like, do I have that look already, kind of. And that thought came back where um, I had been told a couple of years before that, you're going to be working with homeless women. I didn't know it was going to become, well, by that time I become one, actually out on the street. So around 5:30, I left, 5:36, I left the mall and I walked to the hospital, which was probably a good, trying to think how far that was. Probably maybe, ooh, that was farther, maybe 2 to 3 miles. Yeah, at least 3 miles. And I walked there. And so by the time I got there, it was probably like around 6:30 now. And I sat in a waiting room and act like I was a normal person, just, waiting for someone or something. They don't question you or anything. But now it's 8 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, everything shuts down. And I didn't know that. So now they're saying, okay, everybody, security, everybody has to clear out. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I didn't anticipate that. Right around the back of the building is the emergency room. So I'm like, oh, the emergency rooms. I got this thought of, let me go to the emergency room, waiting room, and I can wait there. I'm gonna leave it there for now. And I'll pick up from there in the next video. So I did end up going into the emergency room, into the waiting room, and it's like when we have such, I can say, I can't speak for everyone, but in so many cases, we look at our lives as being pretty comfortable. We have what we need. And then when you're put into that place of not having what you need, and that's a part of this journey is understanding the strength within you and that you're able to overcome any obstacle that comes in front of you. And a whole lot more to come for me that I didn't know. Oh my goodness. Wherever you are on your journey, I'm wishing you the best because I know it's hard, it's difficult, whatever you're going through. and I wish you well. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.